as she looks on.
For the color for the art.
No wonder she knew exactly what color to get, huh?
We walked up to the food truck event at Housie Park on the 27th. That would have been a good event to have the art card at too. It was very family friendly.
Hi. We could see you for a while, but we just can't get the sound figured out here.
Shoot.
So I thought I'd just call you on my cell and I'll just have you on speaker, is that okay?
Oh yeah, I love it, that's great.
Okay, I'll
Good.
just have you sitting here.
Thanks for your patience.
Alright.
No problem, hi.
Hi.
Hi, Carrie.
So just so you know, Kara, what we're working out here, the decision was made to contract all of the recording, the minutes. I'm actually gonna do the minutes art council, but all of the other minutes are going to be contracted out by Time Savers. So that's the troubleshooting that we're doing right now, cause the video recording is being done by our contracted company. I think it's 9 North, and they're located in the control.
Seven. And we'll take rolls, so Lisa Ritchie, if you could take roll for us,
Tom Sonic,
here.
Carrie Nadeau.
Here.
Zoom. Stacy Maher,
Here.
Emily Hagnite, Wynn, actually it is Wynn, is an excused absence, Si Yang here, and Lisa Wong here.
Okay, entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as written.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second, any discussion? Think you wanna change, Ed? Okay, all those in favor of adopting the agenda as is, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Approval of minutes, entertain a motion to approve the minutes as included in our packet. It's gotta be C and Stacy every time.
Oh, sorry. I'm move to
Move to approve.
approve.
Second.
Moved by C, second by Stacy, any discussion about the minutes?
Congratulations, Carrie.
Yeah. And there are two congratulations from last, I don't know if it was in the minutes, but Emily is pregnant. too,
I did
so-
see that, yes. She's
Um,
not here for me to congratulate her, unfortunately. Can we note that I congratulate Emily as well?
For the record.
I got it.
Like
Yay!
literally, for the record.
For the record.
Yeah, okay. So all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, minutes are approved, meeting open to the public. Nobody's here. So we'll move on. So item 6, commission business action items and recommendations. So Project Snowy update. Alright. So I wanna, maybe I'll just start by going back to what we talked about last time. So, and if you look at, I don't know if anyone has that picture available, but we talked about how do we drum up sponsors, how do we get the artists, how do we go through an approval process, and then how are we going to execute this? And so there were a lot of things involved. We needed to update the flyers, so C and others who worked on the flyer, thank you, got that to the mayor. We needed to align with mayor, I spoke with Terry and talked about what the plan was and about the sponsor costs, and then procure sponsors. And one thing I will say is that as of now, we have 3 snowies to make. So there's and there's interest by others, so
What?
we have the city snowy, we have Burwald Roofing wants one, and the North St. Paul Historical Society is going to sponsor one. We also have some interest by, I can't remember what this is called, it's like Silver Lake East Church or something? I hadn't heard of it, but I saw a sign in my neighborhood.
Is it the new church across 120?
Is that the one?
Yeah, I think there's like a
Previously
new,
United Methodist of
yeah, I
Wales.
think it's a new
Okay.
denomination.
Okay. So that church is interested in one, and I did speak to Love Ice Cream, and they're somewhat interested but wanna get their mural done first.
Sure.
So anyway, we're moving on sponsors. Artists, thank you. So Carrie, C and Emily working on the call for artists and getting that sent out. That's great. And then we have these tight due dates. We talked about an approval process that we need to review these submissions, so we added a special meeting, which will be on the 17th, right? To review our submissions. And then we have a process after that. And then we have to execute this thing. So the idea was, and this is based on, if you recall, we had Hart Johnson from Tivoli 2 was here at our June meeting, or called in. And we talked through a timeline with him at that time. And we talked about having these things available for the August 26th car show. He said it would take 2 weeks to rework the mold, and he could have 1 snowy done within 1 week after that, and 5 snowies done within 3 weeks after that. As long as the final day, what his deadline was July 31st to know. And I talked to him more than a week before that and said, hey, we got approval from the city, let's go. We got the money for the refurbishing the mold and getting started. And then he said, great, let me call you back Monday and we'll get a contract going. And he called back on Monday and he said, what's your timeline again? And I told him, and he said, there's no way we can make that. So.
So no for the car show.
Yeah, so kind of changed things. I talked to Hart for a while. I'm like, Hart, we came up with a plan based on exactly what you told me at the last meeting. He's like, yeah, I probably should have said unless things change, and they did. So they're very busy right now, and what we had planned was, if you recall, July 22nd, we would complete the call for artists and send it to the community. That was done. By 7:31, we would order the first round of snowies, and that was done, sort of. 8:15 would be the deadline for artist submissions, and then 8:17 is the special Arts and Culture Commission to review and select artist submissions. The idea then was we would have these bare snowies at the car show on August 26th. And then the 27th through the September 12th, artists would execute their designs if they were selected for the snowies that we had. And then September 16th, we'd have those in the fall roundup parade. What we know right now from Tivoli 2 is that he's got 1 snowy sitting there. So we can at least have 1 while they're working on the mold, if he hasn't started working on the mold right now. But we're not gonna have more than 1, most likely in time for the car show. So I talked to the mayor about this, and then I talked to also Carrie, our co-chair, about this, and said, okay, it may be that we were being too aggressive. And maybe our timeline was too aggressive, especially given the restrictions that we have as a city commission and the limitations that we have in working together, because we kind of ran into some more of that, and Soren was yelling at me about open meeting law, and so it's really, really tough, especially with the size of our commission. Stacy kind of alluded to that earlier. How do we work with that? And we had talked last time about opening up the commission to more members so that we could have work groups of, 3, for example, if we had a 7-person commission. But so what we're thinking right now, Carrie, help me out if it makes sure I'm getting this right, but what we're thinking right now is that we go forward with 1. So we can have basically the entire same plan that we've been working and just do 1 snowy, and it'll be the one that the city pays for. In the meantime, we use that 1 snowy as a way to continue to drum up sponsors so that we have a really full rollout in the spring or summer next year. So we've got 2 more right now, people who are committing. And so then that gives us a lot more time to work on finding more sponsors, a lot more time to figuring out all the details, including getting the bases made, someone who can do in-kind concrete work, that kind of thing, just so that we can save a little money on these things. And just all of the organization that's required for doing this stuff. What I think would be required then is that, so our artist submissions deadline is the 15th, which is just, a couple weeks away. It'll be interesting to see how many we have by then. Do you know if we have any yet, Lisa?
I haven't heard.
Haven't heard?
We have none so far.
We have none so far, so,
So that it's probably good to extend it a little bit, because not only will we be able to get more sponsors, but maybe some additional artists too.
yeah. So, but, I'm wondering if by, well, let's say, if by the 15th we don't have any, then I think we should cancel our special meeting because we won't have anything to review. But even if we don't have at least a few by the 15th, that might change our plan for even getting the one that will be owned by the city done. Because we still have to choose an artist, somebody has to paint it.
I have some thoughts.
Mhm.
I feel like I totally agree that our plan was really aggressive, and that's not a bad thing. But if we rewind back to the beginning when we started talking about projects, we want our projects to be home runs because we want continued support from our
Mhm.
community. What if we put a blank Snowy, the one that we have, in the Fall Roundup Parade with a sandwich board that says, look for Snowies the summer of 2023, so that we give ourselves 10 months to figure out everything else.
I think that's basic.
mean,
Yeah, I think that's basically what we're doing, but I mean,
Right.
if we did have several artist submissions and we had something that we said, hey, this is a great idea, we wanted to select one, we could have one finished by the Fall Roundup Parade. So we can have the one, we can have it at the car show on the 26th, just like the original plan, have it at the car show on the 26th or whatever that date was. And say, look for Snowies coming soon, sponsor a Snowy coming in summer 2023. And then in the Fall Roundup, have the one completed. So it's basically the same thing, but just have the one done so people get an idea of what it could look like.
is Tivoli able to help us announce the call for artists? Cause I thought I recall Greg or Hart telling us that that they had like a bunch of artist resources for these in like the first time we met with him.
Yeah, I don't know. But we did the call for artists, so I don't know where it went to so far, but
We did, but does Hart have resources of artists that we can
Those
say like, hey, send our
Yeah.
call to artists to your resources
yeah, I don't know.
Because I feel like there's something that we're missing from Hart's pitch telling us that this is really popular and that there's a lot of artists to choose from. And we've done this call and we don't have, you know what I mean? It feels like there's something that's not connecting.
Well, it's also only been, 10 days since
Yeah.
it went out, so I think any artist would need a little more time than that. Tom had a good idea too, Stacy, if maybe we could get connected to your connections at Century, those artists. I didn't have their contact info, so I wasn't able to include them in the list of people who got the call, but, send it to everybody I could think of and shared with my networks, and I saw it on Facebook and the city website, so I think it just is gonna take some time for artists to put an idea together and submit it.
And so what I'd like to back up too a little bit, and Carrie, just ask you, does it sound like I covered what we had talked about and what we're thinking given our kind of our curveball that we got here?
Yeah, and it sounds like this, we might have a couple more curveballs before this project is over, so we
Yeah.
might just have to be a little nimble with this. But it sounds like, to me, we've got a couple of really great ideas on the table. We go ahead with just the blank Snowy for the car show and get people fired up and ready to go for that. If we're able to get an artist identified, we have an art artist paint the Snowy and have that available for the car show and the fall roundup, and continue to get people excited about that. Pull more sponsors in for maybe a Christmas in July type event, or some kind
yeah.
of 2023 launch.
Yeah, Carrie had mentioned
There's
this
no reason.
kind of a Christmas in July rollout kind of idea, which I think is really neat.
With the sponsors that have committed, what type of communications have they received about the timeline, and how do we keep them engaged with committing to this project, knowing that we're gonna delay it for additional ones?
Yeah, I don't know, it's all
Yeah,
happened, those have all been
sure.
conversations between Terry and those
Okay.
people,
Okay,
so.
cause I think it's
Two
fine.
people basically,
I think
yeah.
it's exciting regardless, I mean, the project
Yeah.
is still moving forward and delays are gonna happen. It's just being really respectful of our people who've already committed to.
Yeah, and I don't know what the answer is to that, cause I don't know, I think, well, I'm kind of paraphrasing what Terry told me about Burwell's, they just said, Terry, whatever, we'll buy one, whatever, if you're saying it's a good thing, we'll buy one. So I think they're just like, whatever, whenever, we haven't asked for a check yet or anything like that. And then Historical Society, he probably spoke with them after we spoke about the delay, so it may be that he already told them that it will be in the spring. I don't know for sure though. But, it brings up a good point about how do we even work with the sponsors, what do we need to do? Do we have them sign anything? Do they just hand us a check for $5,000? How does that work? So we're gonna have to probably figure out some of that stuff. And this gives us more time to do that. So maybe sponsor management is the topic there.
For our city's Snowy, have we considered a community art event that's monitored by an actual professional to just do handprints over
Yeah.
the whole thing, like different color handprints over the whole snowman, we are North, something that,
So we haven't yet, because we put out the call for artists,
Sure.
so it's something we could do,
okay.
but
That's a
we,
great idea.
Okay, let me try to recapture that for the record.
The, just like a community art event, that's a little, that's more, the artist would be essentially like a vendor managing it, that's not us, so we don't have, cause that was, even the art cart was pretty, I didn't know what I was doing
why don't
when I was
we,
there.
well, what if we table that to, so first of all,
For the 17th.
for the 17th,
Yeah.
hoping that we have that meeting and we have some artists to choose from, and so that could be a potential option. So if, maybe we have some artists send things in and we don't like any of them, which is possible. So maybe we say we wanna go that route instead, or we just wait.
Is the call for artists specific to North St. Paul only? Is the call only here? Or are we looking?
No, it's,
Okay, broader.
I don't, who has it been sent to so far, to see or Carrie, do you know?
Shoot, yeah, I don't know if I can see it when I'm on my phone, but
Okay, but-
it was like the Walker, MIA, Minnesota Regional Arts Council, oh my god, there were like 5-6 different places I sent it to.
Okay,
I'll see if I can pull it up.
yeah, that's okay, so, but I think, so I think it's just gonna be another thing that we'll have to talk about, which doesn't have to be figured out today, but how to move forward with the next call for artists and what even would be the timing for that, because we're moving into then spring and summer 2023, we have a ton of time to work through that. So we can have a call for artists that gives people a lot more time. And then how we coordinate to do that, we have all the time we need. Another thing also, Terry did mention that he spoke with Tracy Luther, who owns that corner building with the windows, right across from Max now. And Tracy said, just, give me a week notice and we can have artists in there painting if that's what you wanna do. So if we do wanna have a painting event there, we can do it, assuming no one's in there by next spring now. that might change. Let's see. Distribution list for call for artists. Yeah,
I'll forward it to the Century folks as well.
Right?
there's also that Springboard for the Arts is who I contacted for some stuff, and I don't know if they.
Yeah, you have to pay $300.
What?
Which I guess we could do. Yeah, it's more of like a job board where you post.
For real?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe your contact would help us figure that out. But yeah, when I looked at their website, it wasn't like, here's the email to send us your options for artists. It was like, pay us $300 and then we'll add a job description for you.
Well, there's a woman who's the director of Springboard. I was in Julius Caesar with her years ago, so maybe I can
Oh, sweet talker then.
yeah, talk about, hey, remember all those good times? Hey, can you get us in there for free? Okay, but
Perfect.
we have time to think through that, but we can get the call for artists, we can reconsider that distribution list at the 17th or after the 17th, whatever. I mean, this is just, I'm actually kind of relieved in some ways, cause it's gonna give us a lot more time. I think, you know, we're pretty open about it, if y'all remember at our last meeting that, you know, because Councilmember Cole brought up that the schedule seemed kind of tight. I mentioned that to the group and we all felt, well, let's go for it, let's try it. So we did, and our curveball was, you know, something outside of our control, so. But actually, I feel more at ease having more time, cause there's so many little details and it's so hard to work on things between meetings oftentimes. You know, just to kind of get everybody in the loop and everything, so.
Do we have any takeaways for?
So, I think, you know, there's a takeaway, I think there's one thing that came up here was about sponsor management, and I think that's something that we can kind of continue to talk about, and how do we keep track of those people who are committing, who are interested, and then how do we, what does it take to finalize the deal?
And how could that change after our next election? Because currently our current mayor is extremely supportive of this program and this project. And we don't know who our next mayor will be until after the election ends.
Great point.
Yeah, well, do you think sponsors might go away from the project with a different mayor?
If we are not careful about sponsorship communication, considering the amount of involvement our current mayor has had with sponsorship communication, yes.
Right, so do you think we should manage those sponsors and, yeah, do you wanna take that on, Stacy?
I can try,
Yeah.
but I'm terrified.
Well,
Or I'm concerned,
I think
like
it's just keeping a list, I don't know what it would be either, I mean, it's just like, do you wanna make a list of who it is, stay in contact with them, here's what to expect, I don't know.
do you think it would help to have a conversation with Terry
Yeah.
about what's been said, what's been shared,
Yeah,
how he's approached them?
yeah, I would start with like names and contact information and say, hey, you following up on this?
What's the
And
best way to contact Terry?
he can email him at,
He's responsive to email?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just don't like
So-
wanna go down a rabbit hole and wait or annoy him.
no, City of North St. Paul email.
He's very open and
Yeah,
easy
oh
to
no,
talk to.
he's,
Yeah.
he knows, yeah.
Yep.
We chatted last night. Then I saw him at.
Okay, so Stacy, you're gonna take on that sponsor management, but I think that would be great, cause just keeping a list of who's in, who's out, and then I think we have to think about, and I don't know if Lisa Ritchie, if we need to talk to our finance manager and say, how do we take money from them, when do we take money from them? Should we have them put down a down payment? I have no idea. We're all just figuring this stuff out.
I almost feel like
Yeah,
with
I'm not
this type
sure.
of a project, because there's a cost involved, and in my experience with purchasing and contracts, we might want to have a contract drawn up from that the city approves.
Well, Or like just a purchase agreement or something too, yeah, that's what I
Some
think
sort of-
talking to
yeah,
Dan.
something.
Is it Dan?
Simple,
Dan.
finance director,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the action item for Lisa to talk to Dan about snowy purchase agreement or something?
For sponsors.
Yeah.
I think the legal team would be the one for
Yeah.
the purchase agreement,
I
and
would-
then Dan, we can find out. And actually, I'm gonna meet with Leah from Campbell Knutson tomorrow and talk about the raffle,
Okay.
what we can
Oh,
and can't do on that.
Okay,
And I also think, and I know wording is, like, it's easy to get caught up in the details, but purchase agreement, yes, they're buying something, but all of our wording has been sponsor. And then like we hand, like, here's your purchase agreement. It might be like a program participation agreement or a
well, I
program
think we
participation
have to talk
contract.
too about like what else do they get out of besides the statue? You know, how, when and where are we advertising this, what's the value in that? And then if somebody does the next level down sponsor, you know, what value do they get from that? You know, where will this be advertised, how will it be advertised? So I think we need to think about some things like that.
Was our goal 5? Or what was I can't remember, was it 2 or was it 5? Like if we had 2 people, it would pay for itself at a certain level or something?
Oh, for the next level down, yeah, we only went 2 levels, 5,000 and 2,500.
Yeah.
So the 2,500 level, basically, it's like, we gotta get even numbers of 2,500 sponsors. If we don't, one option is that the Arts and Culture Commission could pay for half of one to make up that cost. If
Oh,
we-
so it's 5,000 per snowman, so if you're a
Yeah.
smaller sponsor, you're sharing a snowy, essentially?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, and you don't get to keep it,
and you don't get to keep it,
right?
okay?
You know, advertising of sponsors as a takeaway. See, could I ask you and Emily to take a look at that? The two of you seem to have a lot of kind of marketing experience.
Say that again, what are we looking at?
What's our value proposition for sponsors as outside of if you're a $5,000 sponsor getting to keep a sculpture? So how do we advertise them? Where will we advertise? What would that look like? I mean, we can have it on our website and stuff like that, but
And how often, how frequent, do we announce something like 3 times next summer?
Do you just
Does it
want
get
like,
featured in the newsletter? I don't know.
do you want like just suggestions, like a list of thoughts to bring?
yeah, so yeah, if you can come up with, you know, whatever you think would make sense, it's like,
campaign.
why would I wanna give $2,500 to this thing if I don't even get to keep the statue?
Yes.
It's like, well, because you'll be getting more than $2,500 worth of
You're gonna be part of
brand
North St. Paul
advertising
history.
through blank.
I know.
You know, will their names be on the plaque? So we have, because there's the plaques that go on the base, you know. So how will they sort of be advertised throughout the whole thing? So if you're $500 person, you're getting all that same advertising too, and you get to keep your statue.
Mhm. And to go along with what you're talking about, you know, like for Project Snowy, I do feel like it's a bigger project, and I was wondering about like how we wanted to showcase it. Like if, like I don't know if you saw the Roseville in Bloom
Yeah,
website, and like how they've, like the city of Roseville just created a whole web page all about it, and then like a map
yeah,
of all the roses, and then like pictures and pictures of everything. And then also like it's a story about the artist, and then also, you
yeah,
know, showcasing who sponsored them,
yeah,
right?
we could do something like that.
Yeah, and I, you know, like if we're gonna make this a big thing, or if we're gonna do a home run with these projects, like wouldn't we wanna like, you know, have it memorialized on our website or something
Yeah.
to really,
Yeah, whatever, I'll throw it into, yours
It
and
does become part
Emily's
of North St. Paul history.
capable hands, you know.
Put it in the walking tour.
Put it in the walking tour. Sweet.
Yeah, you think like if we did the Rosedale thing where you say, hey, you know, go get your picture taken with all these things, here's where they are, and you're directing them to people's businesses, that's a good thing, you know?
Yeah.
You know, never done this before, so whatever, and I'm sure there are other examples outside of Rosedale, but just how we get, you know, what's the value in.
Mr. Luther, is he interested in being a sponsor at all?
I don't know. I don't know if Terry asked him about that.
He seems to have a really strong presence in our community,
He does, yeah.
and we could try to ask him how we could present him with this opportunity to celebrate his presence.
Memorialize him in
And
North St.
memorialize
Paul.
I know you're gonna do a great job at that, Stacy,
I don't
managing
know
those
who he-
sponsors.
I don't even know where he is, but I would love to find out someday. I've seen a truck. No.
Go over to the auction on
I want
first
to, I
Monday of the
haven't
month,
been
whatever.
able to make it, I can't figure it out.
I think we were talking about that last time you
Yeah,
met
I've
too.
been like, it's Groundhog's Day.
Can I get some clarification on the keeping it if you put down 5,000 and then not keeping it if you have 2,500?
Right, so I don't remember, you know, C redid the flyer, the one pager that was given to Terry. And I think, what did it have on there, Sue? So if you were donated 2,500, you would have the snowy outside your place of business or whatever for 2 months or 1 month this year, 1 month next year, or something like that?
Yeah, it said you get to provide input on design and artist selection and then feature the statue at your location for 1 month in 2022 and 2023.
So it would be 2 months in 2023 if we're.
Yeah.
If we're gonna delay this, which is fine, which actually could be better, cause
Mhm.
we can make it more of an event.
Mhm.
Or do you have concerns, Lisa, or you just?
I'm just wondering, you know, how many snowies we're gonna have at full, and then how, I mean, they're gonna stay there forever? Or, you know, is that something, sorry?
No, that's a great thing. I was wondering about that too.
Stay where? You mean the $2,500 ones, or where people put 2,500 in?
The 5,000 ones,
Yeah.
cause it looks like they can keep their statue.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
so
they
that
would-
means they can
Put it at their business.
They can have
their
it
business.
right outside their door of their
Indefinitely.
business, they could have
Of
it
their
inside
property.
their store, or they could put it in their basement at home if they wanted to.
So that's part of the $5,000 purchase agreement then, is what happens when our part ends and they assume ownership of it, that, cause
Yeah.
they have to assume that liability. So that will be a good thing to hammer out.
Yes, and I wanted to argue about the $2,500 half sponsors. You know, like how like they don't necessarily own the statue. Could it come back to the city and could the city put them on city property to be, like instead of being auctioned off? Cause I know that was.
They could,
We can do, they would be the cities.
Yeah. And then just have
yeah,
it in the
cause
city.
if, you know, so for the $100 sponsors, so say you had 4 people donate 2,500, so you have 2 snowies that in the end, we have said that we would likely auction off. So we could auction them off, and again, a private party could buy those and put them in their basement. Or
in their backyard.
we could keep them and we could put them in parks, we could put them outside the city,
I like parks.
or whatever.
I like parks. That's a great. I didn't even think of that.
So there's options.
Do we have to buy 2 snowies if there's 4 half sponsors?
Well, I think that's the idea, is to try and get as many of the snowies made as we can. We wanna have more of them out and about, I guess.
I'm just trying to think of the long term for
Any other thoughts, Carrie? anything from you?
No, I just wanted to say, I really appreciated the rubric that you put together for the design evaluation. I think that looks great. I don't know if we want to take a look at it tonight.
I did
in
not
case
see
we have
that.
to-
Did that get sent to everybody?
Yeah, that was
Maybe I
July
looked at,
19th.
maybe I looked at one email and
Did
not
it go to
another.
everyone, or did we get scolded on public?
I'm not sure, I'm not sure who it went to, I can't remember, but I could share it again. Yeah, it was just a thought about, cause you know, like we said, how we would evaluate our artists. And Tom, I know last time we said that we would think about a rubric and then come back together.
Right, so that,
Yeah, I can send that to Lisa.
yeah, that would be good to look at tonight because, thanks for bringing that up, Carrie, because our next meeting will be, if we have some artist submissions, is just a couple weeks away.
And it's great. She's got the competency, if it's appropriate, if they're local or not, the
Oh.
creativity and the DEI. So kind of, you know, those 5 categories that to evaluate on, which is, I think, great. You know, anything more than that, we're just going to be picking up little hairs here and there. And then just a continuum of, you know, 5 is great and 1 is having no experience or familiarity. So I think it's a, I have no edits. I have no comments or thoughts. I think the one thing that might be helpful is if we could translate this into like a worksheet. I think sometimes people like to feel like they're doing something when they're evaluating. So maybe a little worksheet where people can write down their thoughts. And that would be nice to be able to have to give to the artists if they are not selected, and they can be like, well, why didn't you like my work? Then we can say, well, it's because you were too political and we're trying to be apolitical, you know? That was the only feedback I had on that. Otherwise, I thought it was great.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I didn't see the.
Well, you're missing out, Tom. It was really
I didn't
Yeah.
see
made
it
my
either.
day.
I got the submission
It's
form and the
just a
call for artists, but I didn't get, oh, here it is, never mind.
It was
Where?
just a draft. It's
Draft rubric for review, July 19th.
Oh, was it it's a Google link?
yeah.
Okay, so did you send that via email? Should I try to pull it up?
I did.
I just got the call for artists and the submission form on July 19th, unless it's further
It
down.
was I don't remember.
The subject line is draft rubric for review, and it was 8:22 a.m. on the 19th.
Did it go to
The 19th was
everyone?
a really busy day. I believe I got it from Lisa,
Oh, yeah.
so I'm guessing
Okay,
it went to
yeah.
everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, it was just a draft and we could,
If everyone has a computer, I can now forward this to everybody for discussion.
Okay, I got it. Oh, we can look up on the screen.
I found it too. Creating the rubric before seeing any submissions is the #1 way to prevent implicit bias, so thumbs up from me. It is. When I look at the diversity and inclusion piece, I think we need to define what average, some, little, or, well, no depiction is clear. But the other 4 are so subjective that we have to figure out a way to make it measurable. So, do they call out diversity being one rubric point? Do they call out equity being a different one? Do they call out inclusion? Those could be like the middle ones. Calling out all 3 could be the top of the top.
Yeah, and it's,
Like-
it's heavily weighted as along with all of the other things, and so like, I'm thinking about like a Snoopy. And so what if you had someone who painted one of those Snoopies to look just like Snoopy? There's nothing diversity, equity, or inclusivity about that.
But he could have like a heart that has like LGBTQ plus, you know,
Stuff.
coloring.
Yeah, right.
Or something, or like,
Mhm.
you know,
And the other thing too, when you look at the design evaluation in the first column, are all of those things in the call for the artist? Did we ask to, like,
That's a
the
good
artist to
question.
have, cause that's the other part, so
Yep.
with searches and recruiting, you have to put what you're looking for that's measurable in the job posting, so that you can take those measurable things and put it in that first column on your rubric.
And then what if something, if whatever artist gets the highest score, do we have to use that one then? So I mean, like, do you go strictly then by the scores?
I think that's why it's helpful to have that evaluation sheet, because while they might score high, you know, there might be little pieces in there that lead you to make one decision one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a public review, all of our notes and all of our reviews will be public, so we'll have to be very transparent and mindful of that.
Do we let the sponsors at 5,000, are they choosing their own artists?
Yes.
Okay.
but then that also like, that made me question about like the people who submit things, cause I know that Lisa, that all information would be made public. Are their submissions public information that we're gonna share? Like, you know, their
That
designs?
we're obligated to share. I don't know.
Cause I know like we gathered information from them, demographics, I think,
Right.
Carrie. And so then like, I don't think we'd make that public, but you know, like their designs or whatever else, is that all public information?
That's a good question. I suppose once it's submitted to the city for review, it probably does become public.
So.
I don't know the answer for sure though.
Like their application itself, would that be made public or could we just take like their name and, you know, cause like their application has their home address and whatever else on it.
We can redact that though, that can be
Yeah, I don't know.
private, but, so, just for clarity, the ACC is only selecting the artist for the city's Snowy?
Yeah, so I mean, if you have for the cities and for any of the half sponsors.
And for the half sponsors, so the full sponsors can select their artists and their design?
Mhm.
Okay, I think we might wanna be more explicit. So right here in our proposal, it says we do have to approve the final design, so that's in line. It sounds confusing to me, like it doesn't sound like the full sponsors have the control that we might be telling them they have when we get to have, do you know what I mean, when we get to have the final say?
Yeah, well, okay, so I think what we were trying to get at was like, we get to, you know, like, before anybody gets to select an artist, I think we're going to make sure that it's appropriate though, right? Like not derogatory or.
Yeah, I mean, I
Not-
suppose there could be some designs that we just disqualify. I mean, I don't know,
And I think that rubric, like the design evaluation rubric, is a great talking point for participants and how we are supporting their participation as a full sponsor. Partial sponsors will need to know this is how we're gonna be selecting, since they're not going to have the final say. But us doing this work of having a usable rubric for them to help them choose something, so that when they do the work of selecting an artist and presenting it to us, they don't get thrown with a curveball like, it's not in line with what we're looking for. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I think the intention was that when we had this special meeting in 2 weeks, that we would have the sponsors already. And so if there were partial sponsors, that they would be joining us at that meeting, they could see what's out there, have some input. Obviously, the full sponsors could choose whatever they wanted if they even lined up their own artist. But at this point, it doesn't matter 2 weeks from now. So it's really just gonna be about 2 weeks from now, if we have a reasonable number of artist submissions, then it's gonna be about us selecting what the one for the city will look like. So we have time to change and draw out a little bit more explicitly expectations for full or partial sponsors as far as the artist design then. Because we won't be doing those artist selections till probably late spring. Right? So if all of those details that we want to work out, like what's that gonna look like, and you know, we've got time now to work that stuff out. It's all good points, but so we've got time to work on those things. So that said, we probably need to feel comfortable with the design evaluation rubric for 2 weeks from now, so that we can pick the one for the city, assuming we have the artist, right? So everyone should know that we might, after August 15th, pull the plug on the 17th meeting, right? Cause our deadline for artists was August 15th, right?
Yes. August 15th.
Yeah, deadline for artists, August 15th, special ACC to review, is it seven? So the deadline is the deadline's a Monday?
And then you're gonna meet up.
Oh, okay, so I'm not saying the 15th is Sunday. So deadline, so if on Monday, we got one artist submission, or we got a couple crummy ones, or whatever it is, you know, we don't have anything, we can pull the plug on the meeting, or we can get together and say, well, do we wanna do something entirely different?
do we call it a special session working meeting so that we can just focus on this project?
I think
Above
that's
board,
what it is,
right?
it's already been
Like-
advertised,
Yeah, and so that can help us get a lot of this work done
yeah,
then.
so,
Well, actually, won't you be choosing then? If you have the submissions, and isn't that what you're gonna be
yeah,
focusing
if we have
on?
submissions, then we'll choose one. And that's why we wanna say, do we feel reasonably comfortable with the design evaluation rubric?
Yeah.
Carrie, to your point, if we have like comments, so can something score the highest and still be something that people don't like? I don't know.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's what art is. I'm not
Yes.
gonna get hung up on, I don't think we should get hung up on that right now.
Hung up on what?
People not liking it if it
No,
scores
but
really
no,
well.
not people in general, the people who rated it. I mean, you could have something that scores the highest in the room on the 17th. And then people are like, there's no freaking way we can have that one be the one that's
Yeah.
sponsored by the city.
It's the same as like a job interview, right? Like people
Right.
will be rated highly, but the fit, you know.
Right, so somehow you
Well-
still have to be able to say, well,
this-
even though this one rated the highest,
But
we think this one's better.
What I caution on that though is if it rated the highest, what is our bias that's telling us it's not the best? Because rubrics are supposed to be designed to guide you to the right choice. And there shouldn't be space for that if this is working right.
Well,
Like are we gonna place more weight on like, you know, something that shows more DEI, or are we gonna show something that shows more competency? Is that what we're kind of saying?
well, that's kind of what I feel like. To me, I think DEI should have less weight. I think competency, creativity should have more weight. I think, even appropriate. I think local artist could have less weight.
Yes.
Especially if it's a North St. Paul resident, because it's like, so Oakdale, they're gonna lose points?
Well, that, and I don't know if we called out that local artists are preferred, but everyone is welcome.
We said local artists, priority may be given to local artists. But local could be like Minnesota, right? Or the Midwest.
So what if, I mean, it's kind of the same thing, but rather than having a matrix or a rubric, you could even just say, you know, we have people just vote on them and we go through some kind of ranked choice voting on which one do we want it to be.
So that's, I love that you brought up the voting. When there's more than one candidate, it's statistically impossible to have a fair vote, and that holds true in government elections as well. It's Aristotle's rule of math.
What do you
and
mean?
Voting. It's not,
When you have more than one candidate, you can't have fair voting?
yeah,
We,
when you, more than two, I should say, when there's
More
more
than
than two.
when there's more than two.
There is no, look it up, they just don't talk about it.
So,
So I don't know if like ranked choice is the best. Or if going by a rubric is the best,
Yeah.
like to score and evaluate.
well, we just won't pick any of them. We'll just do blanks
No.
all over. Kinda gray color.
Or is there something in a rubric that you could score that's a little bit more subjective? So you have that flexibility instead of just, you know, maybe putting it out there like, I still like this one better. That there's
Mhm.
some justification that is formalized, so.
When you think of the fundamentals of art, that really should be one of the key things that maybe we could include in the rubric. It would be texture, it would be pattern, it would be rhythm, it would be, and there's a whole bunch of
Mhm.
fundamentals of,
Yeah,
and those things are the things that should be considered, I think.
well, and that's if it's strictly, you know, if you're
And
grading
design,
it
and
on
it's,
its
and
art.
here's the thing, it's not a design contest,
Like, right,
It's really-
exactly.
so maybe that is.
I mean, I think like I said, I mean, I think competency is a big thing, and that's one thing that scares me about having it be a group, like a community project, cause then the competency might suffer. The creativity, I mean, I think that's what, a lot of these things are so much about the creativity. How does everyone take the same thing and make it something different? And then the appropriateness, I think, is also valuable, because we don't want it to we don't want it to be something we wouldn't want to show in our city.
Sorry.
Do you have a wild idea there?
Yeah, my mind went somewhere else, I don't wanna say.
So with I feel like maybe competency could be broken up into a couple more rows maybe, so that there's more weight on competency overall. So, you know, the familiarity and experience with painting has this many published projects, doesn't have any, or has, do you know what I mean? Like can show
Mm-hmm.
projects or display projects and, you know, speak to that. Maybe we have to do a follow-up with the artists to have them elaborate on these things once we find them. And then sculpting experience. You know, they can show and demonstrate this. They have no demonstration of it. They might have aspirations, but that doesn't necessarily mean they can demonstrate that they've done it. Or look at these projects they've completed, they can demonstrate that they have done this. Like,
I mean, like, the other way you could do it is just to kind of like qualify about which each one. So like, for instance, if this has a weight of 1 and this has a weight of 3, right? But then you could just take the score and multiply by that and then just like add up the total
Mhm.
sure,
section,
Yeah.
depending on the weight.
Sure, yeah.
I think, and I do wonder if our community would be most interested in the competency and the locality. of the, or like those two things. They're gonna wanna see something that looks good. We're gonna wanna see something that looks good, especially if it's gonna be around for a long time. Not that it couldn't be repainted, but and we are a proud community and we are proud Minnesotans. It's not just North St. Paul, I think like the locality of the artist, if it's even from somewhere in Minnesota,
Well,
Right about it.
we had included in the application that you would have to be here to paint.
yeah.
So I think most people, and everything was kind of advertised within Minnesota borders, right? So you know, it's probably gonna be local somehow.
Has someone, Tom, do you have a connection with Hart?
No more than you do, but
Who is the one connecting with him to invite?
I've been talking to him.
Yeah. Do you, are you able to ask him if he has an artist bank to reach
Yeah,
out
I
to?
can ask him that.
Cause that, once we do
But-
that, I think that's gonna open up artists
That
from
doesn't
not
solve
in
our problem for
Minnesota.
2 weeks from now.
No. it
But,
doesn't.
you know, so, but certainly can do that, and we can go much broader with our call for artists. But so for 2 weeks from now, just, and I do wanna see if we can try and wrap this up, because we got other things to talk about, but what do we wanna do about rubric, and to see, how do we, assuming we have somebody to choose from, 2 weeks from now, how do we make the selection?
I like the idea of waiting the rows.
And keep all of them?
Yeah, I
Like
think they're
local
important.
artists is a current North St. Paul resident, I mean, oof,
That's huge though.
it might be, but
I mean, that's a 5 right there. But I
That's-
mean, like, if it's in Minnesota or, you know, you could,
I would
Area.
almost, in some ways, I would flop the Minnesota one and the North St. Paul one. Because we don't define what local is, so we should give them credit. I think local can mean Minnesota, local can mean North St. Paul.
yeah, I mean, I think there are a handful of artists in North St. Paul, but it's not a lot to choose from. Assuming they would even see the call for artists and be interested in doing that.
Especially because there's a fee incurred,
Should we put it in the diversity link up? at the
There's a
bottom?
fee?
the supplies,
What?
the supplies.
Oh, they have to, yeah, but they get $1,000, they have to pay for it out of their $1,000.
Oh, they do
They
get
get,
1,000.
yeah, they get $1,000.
That's right, okay.
Get that proposal in, Lisa.
No,
Get that.
No.
I would love to, no, that's a conflict of
Thought
interest,
you had
that
money
already.
I have many ideas, but that would be clearly a conflict of interest.
No creativity. I like that bottom on the creativity. Somebody just came in with a painted gray.
Just keep it white. It's my blizzard snowy.
I know, cause I think about it sometimes, you guys, I think about it cause I looked at those pictures that you provided and I'm like, gosh, I don't know if I would want some of these. I want some of these snowies.
Yeah.
They're very bright, I'm more of like a neutral plain.
Alright, well, we'll see what we see. Okay, so how are we gonna pick the snowy in 2 weeks if we have one?
So are we saying competency and creativity have a weight of
And-
3, and appropriate have a weight of 2, and then local and DEI a weight of 1? Is that,
Sure.
Okay, let me get that all written down.
yeah, and I could
Equals 3, right?
Just, yeah, I'd say.
And
add it
then
right in.
The next one was,
so competency and creativity was 3, appropriate was 2, and then DEI and local would be 1. And I can redo this.
So maybe the range for local artists could be, artist is local, artist is not local.
Mhm.
But But that's really subjective, cause like you
That's
said,
okay,
Are we
right.
defining local?
Yeah,
Like
that's
North
like maybe
St.
we allow this to be, it's all sort of subjective, right?
The
Even
Twin Cities?
creativity and all that stuff, everything's subjective.
Yeah, I think you do need to kind of define that local, like.
I
The
think
artist lives in Japan, which is local on a universe scale. Earth.
I think it's fine if it's
Minneapolis?
if it's like created like this.
Yeah.
I say that because, you know, like even if you were to rate an artist a 3, you know, like it doesn't really like matter too much because, you know, we're really looking at competency, appropriateness, and
Yeah. So, well, you know, I did send the call for artists to my friend that lives in LA. I don't know if he would, you know, he asked for it.
Yeah.
He grew up in North St. Paul, but that would still
That would be a
earn,
2.
that would earn him a 1, wouldn't
That
it?
would be a 2.
Maybe.
We could do a 2.
North St. Paul history
Cause it says current. and we
has
could do
lived
it-
in North St.
Yeah.
Former North St. Paul.
Former Minnesota. Former Minnesota.
Former Minnesota resident, yes, put that as the 2.
Alright,
Like, that's fine.
so does that give us enough to get through the 17th? I think we're just gonna have to see what happens 2 weeks from now and hope for the best and hope. by
And I would say
15th.
too that like, if we leave here tonight with that being their rubric, which it's fine, it's better than nothing.
Mhm.
We can repivot the next time we have to do a rubric for evaluating something, once we find out what works and what doesn't about this.
Yeah, so were we gonna have to, like a note section then on this too, so there'd be, okay.
I know Carrie said that a worksheet looking thing would be better, so that we could do for each submission to evaluate them.
Yeah, right, okay. Okay, good on Snowy for now? Okay, let's move on, mural update, I met with Susanna and Ilya. He's a funny guy, they're a great couple. But met with them last week, took some more pictures, working with Kai, trying to figure out the money. They're willing to put 20% of their own money into the cost, you know, assuming that's anywhere between $10,000 and $20,000. Right now, we just don't know what the cost is gonna be yet. And I wanted to see is the Arts and Culture Commission, would we be willing to participate in the cost of a mural on a private building?
If they were willing to put 10% up to 20,000, can we just get them to commit to $4,000? Or what's that, what is 10% of
She said 20%.
20%, so
So
40,000.
it's 2 to 4,000.
2 to 4,000.
Yep.
I would say if we do it for them, are we gonna do it for others?
It's a good question. So, you know, it's kind of like anything else that comes to the city, so the city donated money to Max Diner to help get their kitchen done, right? Are we gonna do that for every restaurant that opens in North St. Paul? I don't know. Lisa?
We own that stuff, actually, yeah,
We own it?
all the kitchen stuff.
Oh, really?
So are they leasing it from?
Forgivable loan,
Yeah,
though,
it's a
so after
forgivable
5
loan.
years.
Oh, I see, I see.
Ooh, but that might be a good draw. Forgivable loans to like
Mhm.
grants to support art if they do something, stay in business for
Mhm.
a certain amount of time.
Another
More
thing I
so
would
than operational, I don't know.
Yeah, another thing I would point to is that the city has done similar things in the past. There's the what's it called, the awnings, like on Polar Lounge awnings that they have outside there. I don't know if that's still in existence, but the city had a thing where it's like a business beautification thing, you know,
Yes.
like we'd be willing to give so much money to help you do something if
Yeah.
you're gonna dress up the outside of your business. To me, this fits right in line with that, so maybe it's not even money that comes from arts and culture, maybe it comes out of that pre-existing budget.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we still have that, I know that that commission dissolved. So I don't know if there's still a budget for it.
That was not, I don't think that was part of that, like the design review commission?
What was the other one? There was
There was
another,
like a downtown specific one, right?
that's what I thought,
Yeah.
I might be wrong.
Yeah, cause it wasn't a commission that had it, it was just a
Town revitalization.
line item in the
Project, like,
Yeah, I think it was just.
the special account in the budget. So it'd have to be, maybe it's another question for Dan?
I'd feel better about it if it was something like a forgivable loan that promoted like longevity in the community.
Well, I mean, I kind of see it very similar to, in a way, the Snowy project. We paid for the mold and then we were able to subsidize, sponsorship. It's kind of the same, just different medium,
Yeah,
so,
Lisa R., could you check on that with Dan too, if you put together
Sure
an
will.
email for him about the
Yeah.
sponsor purchase agreement?
Lisa, what's the plans for Sepola? Are you doing something to that street?
currently what's in our redevelopment master plan is that the alleyway will become storefronts. And that it'll be a multimodal pedestrian maybe and bike area. So it's separate from the main.
And does Sepola run that way too? Behind Love's? Or does it end at Margaret? Because like,
I think it keeps going on.
yeah.
Yeah.
And is that a plan to have the storefronts go all the way to where it ends?
You can check the plan.
Okay. Cause this might be able to be included in the Sepola project based on where Love's location is, right? Cause isn't it on its current
Charles.
storefront is Charles the back alley that Love's is on?
Is it Seventh and Charles for a load? I don't really remember. I don't think so. Sepola is,
I have to look.
is there a time frame when they're gonna be doing that supplement?
Yeah, it is Sepola.
I mean, there is no time frame for that at this point.
So it's not really, it's,
mean, we are
it's a
in-
goal, but not in the plan right now, or
I
not?
believe it's in the redevelopment master plan, it's not, I mean, we haven't done
Okay,
our
so it's an
capital
idea,
improvement
yeah.
project budgeting
So
yet,
that could be years out before that happens.
or, it's something that we can discuss
Would this help
in the budget
support,
meeting.
or could this help support the Sepola project if we make a move first to beautify? Cause why I bring that up is the Burwald owned building right behind Love's is where Cole Hutch's Take the Field baseball training thing is.
Mhm.
And when I spent time in the parking lot of Take the Field, waiting for my son to be done, I stare at Love's. It is open parking, it is just right there. And that's on Sepola. And so it could be a great starting point to that beautification project from the whatever directional side of town that is. From the east side, walking west. It's a great, I mean, it's prime real estate to help. Do you guys understanding what I'm saying at all?
Integrate it into that larger.
Yeah, integrating it into the larger plan, even though we're ready to pull well, that's not the right phrase. We're ready to execute this plan if Love had our commission's support for financing and funding it. It could it be used to help kind of get the steam rolling for the rest of that project to start moving? Could that, I mean, that impact's gonna be a visual impact, the second it's done, it's gonna be like, whoa.
Yeah, I have no idea what the downtown
project is, what the proposal is. There's
It'll
some
take
kinda-
a long time
I'm
for
not
that
sure.
Sepulveda
Yeah.
project to
And
come in
does it-
play, because we have to do a transportation plan, we
Mhm.
don't, that's,
Could be something 10 or more years in the future.
let's hope 5, but.
And I think, wasn't it focused on that side of Sepulveda?
I have the-
Yeah, I
Hold
think
on.
it was more concentrated here,
Over
but
there.
I'm not sure
Because
the
we did a-
redevelopment master.
We just recently did that plat for Burwald where they acquired, there was a land swap a long time ago, so that I think recently went through council where it is now owned by Burwald's, where it used to be city owned down in that area.
One idea could be working with the EDA,
What does that stand for?
Economic Development Authority. They are a separate body,
Mhm.
they have funding,
That actually gets into another topic E here too, so I wonder if maybe we can keep going. I mean, the mural, the love mural, there's just more to come on that, we'll see how it goes, but I think when it gets, a big part of it is obviously funding, and so we have that on our agenda. Fundraiser ideas and opportunities, and then F should say, grant applications. We can talk about that as well. Everybody okay with that, if we move on from mural?
Suzanne's happy with Kai's updated.
Susanna and Ilya love Kai's work. He hasn't given them a new design. They're kind of like, whatever he does will be great. It's like, okay. But we, still would like to see it, and then we have to figure out the cost, so.
Yeah, I'm wondering if like the EDA could maybe sponsor these businesses that are interested in doing arts, like say Loves makes an ice cream specific for their mural or something, and then EDA can subsidize, some of the costs associated with that or what have you. I don't know, there would have to be a conversation, but
Yeah.
cause it's in their benefit to retain these businesses.
Right?
Good angle.
It's gonna be harder to walk away after you put your money into a mural on your building, right?
Yeah.
Okay, art cart update. I'll start on that one. We were at the Music in the Parks, I don't remember what date that was.
July 21st.
July 21st, and that was a smash success, I thought. We had lots of kids come to the art cart. We made, 35 hand cutouts were decorated and collected to add to the tree, right, at the library. So we had a lot of kids, and so it was Linda Zick and I can't remember the other woman's name,
Sarah.
Sarah. They were both gonna be at the Colby Hills one.
Yes.
I don't know if they had anyone turn up for that.
They had more than they had at Hosey, so
Two.
they had 3.
Hey, good, okay.
Hey, that's zone defense. That's great.
So yeah, and they had a lot of positive feedback.
Good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think we keep plugging and then we reevaluate at the end. A couple things I wanted to ask about that, Lisa, are we had talked about potentially getting some the thing used to say North St. Paul Parks and Rec.
Yeah,
Can we get some stickers with our new arts and culture?
that's one
Logo or
thing
something?
on my to-do list.
Okay.
I have an email.
Okay.
Our public works director is on vacation this week, so I can't get a hold of him.
What? Not- and you're
If
not-
I go
We're-
home and start asking him, he will.
I think
Cut
that's
me
a
off
good-
at the knees.
Lisa, that's a great boundary to keep in place.
It
Don't
is.
do that to him or to your marriage.
Like,
goes both ways.
It does.
He's got 6 weeks to use, 6 weeks that he'll
Oh,
lose.
he's like at home, staycation,
Yeah,
he's in
he's
vacation
building
time.
cabinets for our daughter's home, they're
Uh-huh.
remodeling, so he's,
Vacation.
yeah. And the 4-hour meeting he had to attend today, but that's how.
Well,
it
I didn't
goes.
know he's on the, I'll call him.
Yeah, you should, you should. He'll answer. You wanna do that? He will.
Yeah, it's just like Scott Dudek in that way, I'd probably call Scott Dudek and,
Yeah, no, we had the decals made for the police car. and I'll use the same vendor for that.
FYI, Linda Zick said she knows the person in signs with the sign
I
right
got an
next-
email from her today.
Did ya?
Yeah.
She's like, I can get you
She's
some
very
signs, man.
helpful.
Yeah,
She's got a lot of suggestions for everything,
Um,
but yeah.
So anyway, what's next for Art Cart?
We have an event coming up. Tom, you put me on the spot, I'm not prepared.
Sorry, I don't.
Nope, that's okay, I have my
I can-
schedule right
You're
here.
in a safe place, Lisa. It's all good.
God damn it, Lisa.
Oh.
Why don't you-
Let's see,
Strike from
Colby Hills, so we have Casey Lake again on the 18th. And then we have Silver Lake on the 23rd, and Dave Zick offered to help if we can't get enough staff, so
So Casey, 8/18 is Casey Lake for Music in the Parks?
yes, that's the last handprints. Hopefully we'll have a lot when we're,
And then what was it, 8/18 and then 8/20?
8/23 is Silver Lake,
And that's for the daytime.
yep,
And we have volunteers for both of these?
we do.
Okay, great.
And then the 9/8, somewhere
Is that the
around-
final car show?
Yeah, so the last one at the car show. The only thing, we haven't made a decision on a project for that. Carrie sent me this project and I think it's fantastic,
Oh.
it's rock painting.
I like that.
And then these are scattered, so this one says, the Kindness Rocks Project, one message at a time, one message at just the right time can change your entire day, outlook and life. Take one, share one, or add one to the pile, and then you just put them around town.
So the idea would be like people come to the Art Cart and we have rocks?
Yep.
Okay,
Get rocks.
then they come in.
I was thinking too, we could put like a little QR code either to the Arts Commission webpage or to our donation page. So if people pick up the rock and scan it with their phone, they could see what it's about or what it's for.
So we'd have to do some pre-work to add the QR code to the rocks? Is it
Well,
a
yeah.
sticker?
Like a stencil.
Do a little
I
Mod
could
Podge
do
out,
that.
slap a QR code on a rock. Can't be that hard.
What
But
about,
how do we slap it, how does it stick?
Lisa has a
Like-
Cricut, I think.
I could do that.
She could
Oh.
sticker it.
I could do that.
You have a resource at home with 6 weeks of time on his hands.
You know what he'd say? Why do your projects always become my projects?
oh, that's what all husbands say. Happens all the time.
Consider it done, Carrie.
But we have to have a lot of rocks then, right?
Oh, I've got some.
You do?
How big do they need to be?
I've got some this big that are flat.
Oh my gosh.
But the people will paint on them, right?
On different rocks, and we can order those from Amazon, we can make them out of plaster, those ones are really nice, cause they're
Wait,
awesome
what?
to paint.
What are we, there's two different kinds of rocks?
Yeah.
What
You
am I-
can,
They're on
So
our,
it's
they're on
a
our Amazon
whole-
wish list, Tom.
Oh, yeah, what did we get in our Amazon package, do you know?
oh my gosh, yes, I'm so excited. I received 2 packages, we got pom-poms, we got pipe cleaners, did we get paint? We got paintbrushes, we got,
Cool.
yeah, so 2 very nice packages.
And did we know who they came from?
No, it's in the anonymous.
Isn't that funny? That's so
Yeah.
cool. That worked.
Can we I know, I think we should
Post that?
yeah, and say
Carrie?
thanks
Yes.
or something.
Newsletter or something?
She
Like a
did.
shout out, yeah.
Yep,
okay.
she did, and we can ask her to do it again, but yeah, I was very excited.
But she could advertise that some anonymous donor gave us a
Oh,
bunch of
yes,
stuff
and-
and
Yes,
and
Yeah,
say,
that's what-
so then it's like kind of like, hey, everybody's
Yeah.
doing it. You should.
yes.
Yeah. Buy some
QR code on that.
Do we create any commission city liabilities by putting a QR code on a rock that has the potential to be used for nefarious activities?
Wow, you think of everything.
I just don't want us to get in
Yeah, I
trouble.
know,
I don't want us to get in trouble.
Well, what if you advertise, what if somebody uses a flyer with your QR code and slits somebody's throat with it? Would we be liable for that?
I would
That's kind of like
be
just a-
impressed if someone could slit someone's throat.
You can get a paper cut. And the
Typically
card
not
stock,
promotion.
if you did it just right, like there's a guy who can throw playing cards right into a wall, right? So, you know, anybody could sue us for anything, anytime, and I think so, yeah, could we be liable because we gave somebody a rock? I don't know, is a rock considered like a weapon or?
Oh, you mean, is it the QR code or the rock itself?
It's the QR code, well, so anyone can pick up a rock or a brick on the street and throw it into a window. Anyone could do that.
Right.
Humans are chaotic, right? We have a rock with our commission's QR code on it that lands in someone's front living room through their window. And they're like, what the heck is this? And they scan the QR code and it's Arts and Culture Commission. Like, I just don't want us to get in trouble.
It
Or
just seems
get-
like a real stretch for us
Is
to get in
it?
trouble on that,
Okay.
yeah, because it's like,
Okay.
who, wouldn't
Yeah.
the person that got in trouble
hope
would be the
so.
person who threw the rock?
Yeah, I think you'd have to prove that it was premeditated by the Arts and Culture Commission. But even so, we would be covered under the city's liability policies, didn't we?
That would
Didn't
never
we
hold up
research
in
that?
court, I can't imagine that would ever hold up in
Yeah.
court.
Yeah.
You don't, yeah.
I don't know, I just,
But like I say, I mean, that does seem akin to me, like, I mean, what if you even just got a severe paper cut that got infected from a piece of mail that you got from the city?
Or kids wrecking their clothes because they were painting.
Yeah, I
No,
mean,
I'm more worried about that.
No.
I mean, they did this with community ed. I mean, granted, there weren't QR codes on them, so the rocks themselves could not be identified as part of 622. But given that they went through it without, to my knowledge, any liability issues, I think we're okay.
but I think there's also, I mean, couldn't there be anything of weight that you could make at the art cart that could be then thrown through a window? And could that be traced back to the art cart? Yeah,
Yeah, I think unless we can prove that it was premeditated with evil intent,
yeah,
right.
which none of us are going to do, so.
And we don't have, it's just like putting these, I don't know,
Scenarios out there.
I don't often play the central negative unless I'm in this group and
I-
I'm having a hard time reconciling with
Yeah.
myself. I really am.
we can always count on you to bring up the worst case scenario, Stacy.
Yeah.
Have a cookie.
So, all right, let's move on. So that's our card, so we have 3 more dates coming up. We have programming for those dates and we have volunteers, so that's great. Excellent. Fall event with Parks and Rec, so Carrie and I attended the Parks and Rec meeting last week. I sent that to Lisa, Richie, I don't know if you sent that out to everybody about the stuff that
I don't
excuse
know
me.
if I got that.
The which one?
I sent it just to Lisa, but I'll send it again.
The fall event?
Yeah, documents for Fall Fest?
The trick or treat trail?
Oh, wait a minute,
Did you
let me
get
just
that?
look and see what's
Okay.
sent.
I sent to Lisa to share at our next ACC meeting, so you can bring it up on the screen or send it to everyone.
Was it like the vendor
Yeah,
check-in day of
right here.
information and the map and all that?
Yeah, the trick or treat trail
Chicken
map.
Trail list, the Casey Lake.
I can't
Park
believe how
vendor.
many vendors they had at this.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Nearly
It's like,
40.
oof. So, but anyway, what we said is that we would help with lining up vendors to be at this thing. Yeah, that's it. So we got the list, we got the vendor map. Boy, this Parks and Rec group, boy, they've been at it a while, they know what they're doing. Cause I saw this and I was like, whoa, this is good stuff and so what we talked about, Carrie and I talked about with the Parks and Rec Commission is that we would try to come up with the vendors who could be at this fall event.
Yeah, and I think not just vendors, but well, I guess when I hear vendor, I think like Scentsy, Tupperware, whatever. But
Yeah.
artists
Right.
as well. So if we're gonna do like an artist alley, like you'd see at a Comic-Con or something, or just craft artists, I think it could be really fun.
Paula Clegg is the ceramics teacher at North and has a really successful pottery business that would be worth asking to be a vendor here. I own one of her mugs by purchase, a spoon rest, and a free trash mug, and they are gorgeous.
So I think what we need to do is just figure out like, well, how do people, it's like a call for artists, you know, how do you get people to come and do the thing? And then
Yeah, they also wanted us to do like a booth fee, like
Right.
$50 to $100 per booth.
And then do we split the fee with them, or do we get part of it?
well, their intention was to use it for lifeguards at Silver Lake, and I said, well, we would also like to partake in some of that income for our commission, but that's just all open to further discussion.
They're also going to look at maybe getting a one-day liquor license for the event, but
Yeah,
that's
to have a beer,
unclear.
like a beer garden or something.
Let me just for the record get clarification on what it was that you guys agreed that our council would commit to.
That we would help to get artist booths for the thing.
So you'll find the artist,
Yeah,
Or vendors.
vendors, yeah.
vendors, yeah.
And this is on October 15th.
Eesh. Yeah, so it's like 2 months away, so that has to be happening like now.
So we only have we have 2 meetings to make this happen.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And previously it was from 2 to 4, but they want to go longer, but not longer than 4 hours.
I know, it seems like it should be at least 4 hours.
Especially if they're charging $50 to $100
Yeah,
for the booth. Usually for a craft fair, it's $50 for a weekend.
really?
Oh, wow. Because they were saying, what did they say, Tom? They said it was like $1,500 for something in St. Louis Park or Minnetonka or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was kind of
Yeah.
surprised, yeah. But that we
I
would
think
go
they-
lower just because it's a newer thing and
We also said, or they suggested, if we have some of the vendors pass out candy, then we give them a discount. So like $100 if you don't want to hand out candy, $50 if you do hand out candy, just as an example.
What's the date of this event?
I didn't hear that one.
the date, is it October 15th, did you say?
Yeah, October 15th, a Saturday.
This
The very
isn't,
next week is MEA.
this isn't the same as the trick or treat trail, right?
It
Yes.
used to be that, they're not calling it the trick or treat
Oh,
trail
okay.
anymore.
Okay.
I think they haven't settled on a name, but I think it's something like Fall Fest or something like that.
Okay.
So would we have to create some kind of contract and coordinate all this, or are we just making suggestions and sending them their way?
No, I think we're coordinating it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what your takeaway was, Gary?
Yeah, that was what I got.
But
we
here's-
just off our plate.
Here's a whole list of people who had already participated. I think it's kind of weird. I really pictured it more as being as many artist booth vendors as possible, not, Target and North Haven Church and stuff.
So they want us to contact all these people
This is just the list that she had used before.
and confirm their participation in this?
We could use that whole list and see if they wanna do this one.
But aren't they reaching out to those? They're not,
No, this,
we're
Wait,
doing
I
the
think-
whole
That's a
vendor.
all of it?
The event, we're doing the event.
No, we're not doing the event. They're coordinating the event. We're coordinating the vendors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who is this list?
This is 2019 list.
Vendor list or
Yeah.
participant list?
They had tables and handed out candy, so they, I don't think in the
Yeah,
past
so
they
it's kind of
did
a different
crafts.
thing, yeah.
And they're kind of putting a different twist, and if you wanna sell something, you can, if you wanna just advertise and hand out candy, that's what most of these ones did in the past.
Okay, I get it.
I'm still confused, what are they doing? And what are we doing?
everything
Handing
else,
out candy.
and we didn't stay to find out what all the other things were that they were doing.
But they were talking about having a beer garden, they're talking about having like a street dance in the parking lot, they were talking about all kinds of stuff,
Bonfire,
yeah.
Wow.
bingo, getting the Legion involved somehow.
What are your thoughts, Tom?
You know, when we talked to them last week, it seemed like that this is something, I was thinking initially it would be like 10, 12 people. That's what I was, as far as like booths.
Vendors.
And they said, well, we had like 40 last time. I'm like, what? But like I said, these people weren't selling things. This is a whole different list. These are the people that they had who were handing out candy. And then they had their own thing, just to advertise their thing. These are not the people that we would be interested in contacting, because we're talking about having like an art fair type thing.
You
So
know,
we would be contacting artist type people.
why don't I put together some kind of a flyer? I can email all of these in a blind carbon copy. I know there's a limit on how many you can do per, I believe it's well over 40, so I don't think that'd be an issue. I can email that out. As far as, can somebody take the task of tracking who agrees?
Hang on, so let's wait though, cause I don't know if we wanna just contact all these people and say, hey, do you wanna have a booth at this thing?
Okay,
The other thing
'Cause-
is, I think we need to ask Parks again for clarification, because setting up vendors, organizing a dozen vendors to sell something is very different than organizing the tables along the trick or treat trail. And if they want the vibe of the tables of people handing out candy along the trick or treat trail, I think Parks needs to organize that, and I'd be happy to participate in organizing 6 to 10 vendors that are actually selling something. I
So
don't,
the way,
sorry, go ahead, Carrie, go ahead.
so the way that she made it wasn't a very time or personnel intensive thing. This was run by 1 to 2 people. The night before, she'd have someone from Parks paint the numbers on the map in the park where they would go, and then they would rely on each person who signed up to participate to bring their own tables, chairs, everything they needed. There was no setup of anything by any park staff. This was all dependent on the vendors taking ownership and responsibility for setting themselves up.
Like
So,
they bring the table, they bring their tents or
We say, here's your spot. I think what they had in here, it's in the email, it's like they email and say, your spot number 32. They would go and find the spot 32 on the map and set up, and they just be there. And they do their thing. We collect a check from them, whatever. I mean, I can't believe any of these people, like these churches and everybody, like paid a fee and then handed out candy? They didn't do that, did they?
no way.
No, but nobody was selling anything.
Right, they were just giving out candy.
And that's something to consider too, is like, what is the angle of the event? Is it like celebratory and people are in the beer garden, or are people like mingling and shopping? Cause I think that's gonna be something to also entice or incentivize the crafters, especially if they're paying, and if it's a 2-hour window versus a 4-hour window
Right.
versus et cetera, that's
And are the
worth
craft
their time.
tents set up in the hockey rink over there? And the other folks that are passing out candy set up along the trail? Like the sales stuff and the beer garden, is that located in the same spot? Is that?
And are we just looking for artists or crafters for vendors? Or are we considering like food vendors or like?
they're
Right.
coordinating the food vendors.
We are coordinating?
No, they are.
yeah, I think now that we're called the Arts and Culture Commission, they're hoping that we will find art vendors or art specific vendors or crafters. So I think that's why we were called in.
Mhm.
I'm okay, I'm 100% supportive of the art vendor angle. I'm nervous about organizing this list. I don't feel like that's, I feel like that's confusing. Hi, we're from the Arts and Culture Commission, do you wanna pass out candy at a Park and Recs event? Like, that doesn't, it just feels weird.
Yeah, I don't think that's what we're,
So like, do we tell them, thanks for showing us what you did in the past? We're not gonna, I mean, we're not contacting these people? Are you? Like, I don't know. I just need some more clarification
Yeah,
on
I
what our
gotta, I'm
expectation
sending
is.
Sarah an email, I'm drafting an email to her
Okay.
right now, I'm gonna get some more answers on that.
Sweet.
But then we'll have to just, so I think our job here is to look for artists that want to set up booths, and how do we do that? So,
You want a flyer?
yeah, we need a flyer that says, hey, you wanna set up a booth? I have no clue, like, what do people do to get artists to set up booths at their things? So.
Are we set on the booth fee, on the entry fee?
No, and I think we'd have to talk about that too. I'm okay with that being like $100. I don't like the idea of saying like it's less if you hand out candy. It's kind of like, well, just hand out candy if you want to and don't if you don't want to. Cause if it's $50 less, it's like, well, we could just, that's $50 we could have just spent on candy at Costco.
Yeah. Well,
But
maybe,
and I don't wanna be involved in the candy side.
Oh, I know, it's terrible. Lisa, Richie, are you still good at drafting up a flyer?
I could, yeah.
For
Maybe
the,
draft up a flyer and I can see if I can get some artists who might be interested. Not that I'm having much luck with Project Snowy, but
so, well,
I
I could
haven't-
also reach out to Springboard on that too. I don't know if they
Yeah.
have any idea on like how you get
Well, I know,
artisans for.
Carrie Erpenbach is coordinating Arts Festival, or excuse me, the St. Peter's Fall Festival, and she's having a craft fair at that.
Oh,
And they're
great.
Yep, they're charging, that's in September, they're charging $40 for a table, and it's Saturday evening and all day Sunday. And unfortunately, she did say she's having a hard time getting vendors. I know she has some, but she's used to doing things big time. So,
Yeah,
I could maybe ask her if she might have some suggestions.
I also have an
Yeah.
inquiry into Paula Clegg from North,
Okay.
asking her, cause she has set, like, she just set up a booth at the Minnehaha Fair.
Yeah.
And she's been at the Afton Arts Festival.
Yeah.
With a table, and I asked her if she had time to just answer some questions, so I'll ask her like, what's a normal booth fee that you are comfortable paying as an artist?
and I'll reach out to Springboard and then we can just see, you know, how do you solicit people for these things?
And I'll ask her if she's interested in being a vendor too, cause she is local, I mean, she lives in Woodbury, but
That'd be
teaches at
awesome if
North,
she could.
yeah.
I have friends that are woodworkers and they have been doing craft fairs all summer, so they're available in the fall.
Awesome.
I got you down for woodworkers.
I
DCW.
know a lot of them.
Really, why is that?
Just people that work in like nonprofits that build boats and they just know
Oh,
people.
big time woodworking, not the pens on the lathe.
I mean, it's more of like a skeleton kind of boat, not like the full like cedar
Yeah.
strip or anything, but
Very
yeah, it's like
cool.
a workforce
Cool.
development program. But they also teach workshops and whatnot, and so there are people that are very talented in that.
Very cool.
Okay, let's keep moving.
Did you
Uh,
say, did you say who's tracking it as you guys reach out? Or I don't know if that's,
No, we don't have anyone tracking.
I'll track it. So if you get people, send it to me. And I think that tracking sheet is just a good idea of like, I guess,
And then we gotta collect fees?
the thing, the contact name and the email address. Yeah, and how do you do that? I don't know, I don't have
Can you
no idea.
embed that into like OpenGov or something, like on the website, like a interest
Oh.
form or
Okay,
something
let me
like that,
take
so
a
it
note of that.
donate
Captures-
to our
captures like basic information and then it punches out a nice Excel sheet.
I know, it's pretty common to have online registration, so
Yeah.
maybe Carrie could just,
Oh, that would be,
Yeah.
so then they could just pay online?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
yeah, cause they're paying to the Park and Rec Fund and they already have that set up with a QR code. Perfect.
Does Park and Rec have a goal for how much money they would need to pay a lifeguard?
I know they know how much it costs to pay lifeguards from the Silver Lake Splash event.
Well,
But
they
I
used to
don't-
sponsor them all summer long, my daughter worked there for a few years.
What's that?
I said they used to sponsor them all year long, like all summer
Right.
long.
Right, so they tried to raise so much money and then the city
Oh,
paid part of that cost as
okay.
well.
Yeah, so the Silver Lake Splash is what the profits from that was used for the, and they're not doing that anymore?
No, they haven't done it for, well, I guess a couple years.
Probably 4 or 5.
But, so, yeah, and so as far, I mean, they, you know, if we, however we split up the money, if they wanna put it towards lifeguards, that's fine, or they could put it towards something else.
Or could it be like a percentage where like some of it goes to a lifeguard and some of it goes to, you know, funding the art cart to be out at the
Yeah,
Park.
exactly, yep. Yep. Okay, so we got call for artists, the booth fee, and draft a letter. Lisa, did you say you were gonna draft the letter?
The flyer.
Flyer?
Oh,
A flyer for the Fall Fest? And I'm gonna contact Springboard for the Arts. Stacy is gonna contact the North High teacher. Lisa W is gonna contact her woodworker friends. And I will track the vendors, so if you get anybody that's interested, send them my way. And then we have to figure out,
or actually, if we could do that online form,
yeah,
then that would eliminate the need for us to track it.
yeah,
We
cause
could
maybe we could just direct them to that if we
Yeah.
have up,
a lot less work for
do-
me.
Yes.
and then pay that way too.
We pay a lot for that, so.
Yeah, the
Yes.
system, yeah, great,
Yes.
right?
Right.
Let's use it.
So Lisa R is gonna look into that with Carrie.
Yep.
Okay. So much for thinking this would be a shorter meeting. Okay, fundraiser ideas and opportunities. And I think, Carrie, this was inspired by, you sent an email about, and I can't remember what it was right now, but some people that did a fundraiser for something, kind of a creative approach.
Oh,
Yours was around guns, our gun art
She had.
art is
she had-
our weapon?
Yeah, she had that too, we're gonna talk about that.
Oh, that's something.
But Carrie, didn't you have something?
yeah, that's vaguely familiar, but man, I send too many emails in a day.
I
Yeah,
hear you, girl.
but there was also, you know, we can talk about that, but also grants. And just different areas for that. I think we have to, you know, this fall especially, we can, well, starting now, we should try and ramp up our efforts to apply for grants wherever we can. Cause a lot of it, you know, deadlines come up and then,
Yeah,
I
I think
texted that, yeah,
we
sorry.
kinda need to like slow down a little bit, cause we got a million projects
I
going.
know it.
What?
Well, and part of the
Never.
thing is it's hard to do some of these projects without money. So it's trying to find the,
So we haven't done anything with the grants, right? We haven't like formed a committee for who's doing what
no.
with grant, okay.
mm-mm.
Okay, this was for tubing for the arts at
That-
Vino in the Valley in
that's
Maiden
what it
Rock,
was.
Wisconsin. Yeah, so they're Ellsworth, Wisconsin is trying to get their own public art going.
That's what it
And
was.
so they did a tubing for the arts, which is really cute, but we don't have any kind of tubing situation here, so.
Nor do we want to after last weekend.
After last weekend, no, I'm good.
Crazy. What happened to just getting drunk and taking your clothes off when you were two? Just stabbing each other.
I know.
Not enough alcohol.
What?
There wasn't enough alcohol.
Yeah. Alright, well, so what do we think? Do we wanna table this item or, you know, where do we wanna go with this?
Yeah, I think the only other idea I had was if we could somehow connect with, and I don't know how you would do this, but if we could somehow connect with somebody that does pull tabs. This was a suggestion my mom had from her experience. Just, you know, if you find someone who does pull tabs and they can give you a portion of the proceeds as a
Max.
donation.
They do. But
Max.
how did the Hill Murray Men's Club get the pull tab booth at Max?
We did?
Yeah,
What do you
They
mean?
did.
What does that mean? They
so
own
pull
it?
tabs have a nonprofit sponsor that they sponsor. And the pull tab licenses, these nonprofits fight over trying to get the pull tabs.
It's who you know.
And it's about who you know, and the Hill Murray Men's Club is the pull tab sponsor at Max.
So
And they
forever,
actually-
so they get all the money from it?
They actually have a big part of the metro area, a lot of places.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. It's really frustrating. It's great for the Hill Murray Men's Club.
And also, well, it's connections, that's all I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna.
Hey, I will say though, I've been to Max twice already, and I
awesome.
was reading the menu and they said, on the back, it said, you know, we love to be involved in the community, we like to donate to things, so there's maybe an opportunity there to get something, but I think it's kind of like Carrie, I was telling you about that MRAC grant application. I did not get that done by the deadline. When I first looked at it, I'm like, oh, you just fill out a couple of things and send it in. So I started working further on it, and it was a ton of information, and you had to be very specific about the thing that you were asking for money for. And I'm like, well, I can just sit here and try and make up a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, we don't have a specific thing that we're trying to raise money for right now. I mean, I was gonna say, well, North St. Paul mural project.
Mhm.
And so all murals in general, but everything, then it's like they want all these details about it, and I'm like, I have no details on this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I let that one go by. But they have others, there are other things that you can apply for through there.
Yeah, and I did manage to sit through the St. Paul Minnesota Foundation webinar about their upcoming opportunities. So that's FR Bigelow, what is it? It's like 3 of them that they manage. And so there's 3 different grant opportunities you can apply to, and they're really focused on the east side. So we're a great demographic for them. But that application window opens 8/8 and ends 8/29.
Ooh.
So I might sign up. I might sign up for that and just see what that looks like, and maybe we can put something together. Because I don't know, in the grants world, it takes 1 or 2
Right.
tries before you actually get funded. At least in my grants world that I work in. But
I wouldn't be
We'll try
surprised at all. What was the name of that one again, St. Paul?
St. Paul Minnesota Foundation, I think, or St. Paul Minnesota Foundation.
Okay,
So they had a little webinar a couple weeks ago just about the process and what kinds of things to look out for and whatever. So they're launching a new grants portal this year. So everything is different and which is exciting and good for them. But
okay, so and I'll just add here, so I've got pull tabs, question mark, I don't know if there's any way that we can get involved in those somehow, somewhere. Max Diner, MRAC, St. Paul Minnesota Foundation, and here I'll add EDA. And then also, I can't remember what this fund was called, it was something like downtown, I don't know if it was beautification or whatever, but it was a fund that was available for any downtown business that wanted to, you know, make their storefront look better.
Yeah, oftentimes EDAs will fund that or subsidize them. They're doing it in North Minneapolis too right now.
Yeah. So I think EDA, we could maybe hit them up, you know, I mean, you know, if we can piece together as far as like a mural is concerned, $1,000 here, $1,000 there, we'll get pretty close.
Can I ask a grant process question? Do we have to get approval from the council before we put in applications for money? Or can we just go wild and just try and get all the money we want?
I think the council would prefer to know, but I mean, sometimes even if you're awarded, you still have to accept the grant, so I mean, we do that with like other grants, so I think it's fine, but I can take that to council.
So maybe it'll be, maybe take to council, is it okay if we just, since we're so new, we try and submit grant proposals for feedback with the understanding we'll present any grants we're awarded for approval to accept before we accept them?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have to do
You
that
have
for
to
sure.
do that
Okay.
part, yeah.
Okay, good, that's all,
Yeah.
then,
And then any
good.
like grants that are in process, I can just communicate that at meetings.
Are you watching
good?
TikTok videos over there?
No, I just realized something.
Alright.
It was like,
You gonna let us know anything?
yeah, it was, you know, like, so Deed, my employer, so, you know, like, we gave a whole bunch of money, it's part of this, you know, like downtown Main Street Economic Revitalization Program. And, you know, like, the people being awarded was, you know, like, I believe, St. Paul Minnesota Foundation was one of them. And I think this program was done from the money that I think we gave them, I think.
Yeah.
Looking at, you know, at their website about, oh, what this is about, building community capacity, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, I think this is the money we gave them.
Can you get us added to the list?
That's not a conflict of interest, is it, if we're?
No, like, cause it's like, we're just
Yeah.
giving money for them and then they're the ones who,
Distributed.
yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so I think that kind of covers fundraiser ideas, opportunities, and grant applications, so we got some action items taken away from there, and then we'll keep going. So, and Lisa W is gonna look into anything else we need to know about
Process.
grants and process, right? Okay, last, this is you, Carrie, art is my weapon discussion, you wanna take it?
Yeah, I haven't done anything since our last meeting, but thank you, Lisa, for including the CARE 11 article. I think that really, if you had a chance to read it or take a look at that video, I think that really encapsulates what it's about. So basically, a church in Northeast Minneapolis was able to partner with law enforcement on doing a gun buyback program, and then they worked with Art is My Weapon, which is a Minneapolis nonprofit, to turn those guns into art. So I don't know, like I said, I was busy with Project Snowy, so didn't have any more time to do anything with this, but I think maybe the next steps would be, you know, decide, do we want to try to do something like this? What would that look like? Would the city of North St. Paul join us in a gun buyback situation? How would that work? What does that look like? Maybe this isn't even possible, I don't know.
Any thoughts, anybody? I wonder if we would coordinate with like the police department on something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and if that's possible. Yeah, and it, you know, I don't know,
Chief Davenrock?
yeah, I don't know if but I don't know if this North St. Paul has ever done any kind of like gun buyback thing, do you know if they have?
Not to my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And he's more aware of what's happened in Ramsey County, so he might know. but,
Okay.
It's worth asking.
If it were to be, you know, open, is that just for North St. Paul residents, or is this program, like, would we offer this?
And that's a good question too, yeah, maybe it's,
So was there, so Carrie, help me out, so was the idea, or what had happened before, like there was like a gun buyback program and then they took the guns and like melted them into something, or they they got a welder and made them into something, or what happened?
Yeah, I think they just kind of I guess I thought when I first read it that they melted them down, but I think what they did is like, well, first they had to decommission it, whatever that means, and then they have to like take them apart, and then you could use the different pieces to kind of make your own sculpture.
Yeah, it does say here melted.
So did people make were there multiple sculptures made or one big one?
Yeah, I think it was a variety depending on which community they were working in. So
Okay. And then where did the art end up?
I think different places. I think they've been asked to participate. They do a couple garden projects, a couple Minneapolis-based projects.
Okay. So I think it's worth exploring. I wonder if we could reach out to the police chief here and maybe start, because first you're gonna have to probably start by getting some raw materials, and then you have to find artists who can work with those raw materials, right? But I think it's interesting.
It'll spark conversation.
Yeah.
Are you saying like we would create our own art is my weapon, or are we gonna work with art is my weapon people, organization?
Good question.
It's a non-profit
Oh.
organization or something.
What are you thinking, Carrie?
I'm open to anything, whatever you
Okay.
guys want to do.
Yeah, maybe just to kind of, you know, we would be a sponsor with the organization that exists and find a way to collect. So we could advertise as something that the Arts and Culture Commission is doing, is to helping to participate in a gun buyback program to take these guns and have them turned into art through the Art is My Weapon group.
Yeah, cause they, you know, like are offering, you know, they're doing call for artists,
They already have the infrastructure.
Oh, I see. Oh, that would be great. I like that idea.
So it's just like, just partnering with them.
Cool. So just curious, who buys them back? Like, where does the money come from?
I don't know.
What if they're just invited to talk, we invite them to talk to us about their program and how it works?
Could do that.
That's a great start.
Carrie, do you wanna take that to see, is there a contact to talk to these folks?
Yeah, it looks like they have a contact form.
Okay. Like just how to be involved.
Sounds good.
AIMW to see how we could be involved. Okay, so we'll take that as a first step. Okay. All right, that wraps up our commission business action items and recommendations. So now reports from staff.
Oh,
Lisa
that's me.
R.
Actually, I don't have anything additional to report.
Okay. Reports from commissioners. Carrie, do you have anything?
Nope, I'm good.
C?
I do not.
Stacy?
Well, I have nothing,
Okay.
sorry.
And I would just add that my wife and I attended the hearing on the future use of the community center last Thursday. And I thought it was interesting, it's just decently attended. And a lot of people had a lot of feelings, the overwhelming feeling was that it should be more of a mixed use thing, at least have something for the community. But you know, it's, a lot of people were complaining that it isn't more mixed now, it's like, well, they're like, well, it's not even a community center, it's like, no, it's not. I mean, it was like decommissioned, you know. It was shut down from being a community center and rented out, and so that's current state. So the idea is, well, can we continue to rent out parts of it in some way and then have programming for the community? So that seemed to be kind of the overwhelming feel. a lot of concern too about, you know, how do you fund the thing and, you know, like, one member of the community talked about how it was bleeding money in the past, and it's like, well, it's bleeding money if you assume that it has to pay for itself. And so I think there's something we have to kind of, the city maybe has to reset, like, what does it mean to have a community center? Is it something they expect to break even on? Is it something they expect to make money on? Or is it something that would be an ongoing expense as a fixture of the city? Just like many of the other things that we have in the city are. So that's something that they'd have to kind of reconcile as they go forward. I think it would be great, and I think it's something as far as our commission is concerned, is it gives us potential venue for things in the future as well. I mean, when it's too cold for the art cart, which is, you know, roughly 9 months of the year, there's potential to have something at the community center maybe, you know, on a monthly basis or something like that, but just, you know, something to plant the seed in everybody's heads and, you know, think about maybe there's some future use for our commission at the community center, if it becomes a community center again.
I'm glad you brought that up. I watched that meeting today.
Did you?
Today, yes. And it was a very interesting discussion. I think the city also needs to define what community means for a community center, because many of the participants were not North St. Paul residents.
Oh, really?
Yes. Many of they have children associated with North St. Paul through the school, but they do not live at a North St. Paul address.
Okay.
And our city has been funding or would fund that with city revenue or city generated dollars.
Right.
So
So also, do you
Yeah.
turn children or youth away if they don't have an ID or?
Yeah.
Cause that can be a barrier in itself, youth not having IDs, like a huge one.
or what type of ID would they need to have? Is it a state government issued ID or is it a North St. Paul High School student ID? But then when you do that with open enrollment and, you know, how other cities, I think it deserves some research about how other cities operate their community centers. Shoreview, you have to have a 55126 government issued ID to get the like the Shoreview rate to be a member
So
there.
there's just a different rate, yeah, and that's the
But there's
same with
rates.
Maplewood, that's how they used to operate too.
Before they contracted to the Y.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a problem. A lot of these former organizations have dissolved and we don't have the activities like we used to. Although Laura Greenlee Karp did say that the ISD 622 took on a lot of the programming, so.
Well, and if the building now has $2 million of improvements that are needed, what has it been doing the last 10 years?
I can
Why?
tell you,
Exactly.
Ron's been up there.
But that's
Every night in the
problematic.
winter, working on the heater.
You know, and but that's problematic with,
It's very
it's taking an
problematic.
income and why wasn't it maintained in a way that we're not gonna have $2 million, you know what I mean? Like what,
Because there was talk of selling, it's a whole story.
Yeah,
We
right.
could go
There's
on
a
for-
lot,
Yeah,
a
there's
lot
a
to
lot
it.
I believe it's complicated and I used to work in commercial real estate, I get it, and it's a tough conversation. I don't envy that consultant, former interim city manager person.
Craig Waldron, Dr. Waldron.
Yep, I don't envy him and I don't envy the council for having to make a decision on it, cause it's hard.
Reports from council liaison.
Let's see, I think one thing that I would recommend in your next meeting is to work on a budget.
Yes.
Yeah, so right now the council's in our budget process.
Yep.
And you know, we have met with fire and we'll meet with other heads. And because the commissions don't necessarily have representation except for the chairs, I mean, that's something that's considered.
So this is another thing I was thinking about too, Lisa, when it comes to our current budget, I mean, we have this money in our fund. And if we don't use it this year,
I was gonna ask Dan that actually.
yeah, so that's, you know, that also gives us some potential to say, okay, well, we could at least, one thing we could do is say, well, we are setting aside X amount of money, we're buying a Snowy. Or we
We're
could say,
encumbering it.
we're putting some money toward a mural or something. Cause I don't want it to be a use it or lose it situation and we didn't use it when we had things we could have used it for.
Could we ask Dan if we encumber it and like earmark it for certain projects, ask him what the absolute timeline is? Does the city operate on a calendar year budget for their fiscal year, or is it different?
I'm sure it depends, maybe.
I think it's calendar year, isn't it?
Well, every place operates differently, like the U operates July to June, the federal budget operates October to September.
January, I think calendar.
I think it's
Calendar year.
calendar year.
Yeah, 'cause
So
we
what-
approve the budget at the end of December.
And what part of that budget are we supposed to have spent by December 31? And like Tom said, what's the process for extending?
Yeah, I can ask Dan that, or
Otherwise, we
ask
call
the
Susanna,
manager and-
got your money for a mural.
Could you
Use
give
it right
us,
now.
right, exactly, if we're gonna lose it.
supplies for the art cart too.
Yeah.
Can we get
It's
some
pretty
feedback
sweet
on
craft
what the
supplies.
council would like to see? Like a template, a format for a budget that they would appreciate, that's easy for the council to review and.
I think that's, yeah, Dan will probably have, cause he's been leading different exercises
okay.
too, so he might have a better way of, you know, budgeting or showing us a budget that might be helpful.
And is this they're currently interviewing city managers, or is this the final one?
Yeah, so that's my next update. We will be reviewing our materials of candidates this weekend now. And then on Monday, we will have that discussion, but we should be making a decision by the end of this month. So,
Anything else?
just a fundraiser idea that popped up in my head, kind of like a sip and paint, like a wine and paint thing near the lake or something.
A what?
There's sometimes like maybe a painting instructor and
Oh,
then
like the
they can bring,
wine
you know,
and-
their wine.
Yeah.
I would volunteer to do that. I've done showers, I've actually, yes,
Yeah.
I've done a number of those, so I would be happy to volunteer.
That's
Let's
like
do
a
it.
really nice like adult audience too,
Yeah.
which is, you know, a
It would
nice
be
different
great if
change.
we could have it here, but being as it's a sip and paint, we wouldn't be able to because of the alcohol.
Well,
We
you
could
could
do it at a park
You could do it at the
without a
Casey
permit,
building.
like the pavilion where the picnic tables are, if we wanted to keep it outside just for keeping it clean.
I think we're gonna need a little bit of time to coordinate that.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
So-
definitely, that's.
But you
Yeah.
could do it in the winter inside the Casey
Yeah.
building. Or the Housy building.
But
Which
at like, I would just suggest getting like, how much will the actual supplies cost, and then how much would we provide wine, I'm assuming?
Typically,
Or it's like
BYOB.
BYOB, and then we could do it
Yeah.
maybe if it's BYOB.
or we could even, if we do a sip and paint, it's usually provided. Oh yeah, no, we need a liquor license, so BYOB would be best.
No, I don't think we would need a liquor license.